بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا ومولانا محمد الصادق الوعد الأمين وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه الغر المحجلين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا، زدنا علما يقربنا منك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا، وأنت يا حي يا قيوم تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا سهلا. لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك اللهم ونتوب إليك. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وبعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to our class on al-Idaah, which is a book on the rules of purification and prayer on Salah. And today's topic is the nawafil prayers, the sunnah and extra prayers, supererogatory prayers after the sunnah mu'akkadah. So we talked about the fard prayer, talked about the wajib prayer, which is the witr, we talked about the sunnah prayers we pray with the fard, and now we're going to move on to various prayers. So there'll be a short few points regarding the Tahiyatul masjid, Tahiyatul wudu, Istikhaarah salah, Salat al-duha, for instance. So we're going to talk about various prayers that are either daily at certain points in time or occasional, could happen more than once a day because of the event, and there might be one or two prayers that are seasonal as well. So we have Fiqh Hassan as usual. We'll be reading inshallah ta'ala, and inshallah he'll be reading the English, which is page 217 of the hard copy, slightly further back in the PDF, and it's a section on the greeting the masjid. What do you do? So, Bismillah, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Shaykh, you okay?
Yeah, alhamdulillah, I'm well. Hope you're well too. Thank you for joining us today. Are you ready?
Ready, yeah. Bismillah.
Okay, Bismillah, Rahman, off you go.
The greeting the mosque. It is sunnah to greet the mosque with 2 rakats of prayer before sitting.
Yep.
Do you want me to go through
the
next
the whole
2 or 3?
section, and then we'll comment on that. Bismillah.
Okay. Performing the obligatory prayer is a substitute for the greeting prayer. Likewise, performing any prayer upon entering the mosque serves as a substitute for the greeting prayer, even if one does not intend the greeting prayer. It is recommended for one to pray 2 rakats after ablution before
so we'll leave it at that.
on.
So we'll just do the wudu prayer first, the salah prayer first. So there's a few points here about what we call in Arabic Tahiyatul masjid. Greeting. Tahiyya means a greeting. So greeting the masjid, i.e. whenever you enter the masjid, this is for males and females, then it is a sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to perform 2 rakats. These 2 rakats are called Tahiyatul masjid, and the Prophet said, if anyone enters the masjid, then before he sits down, then let him perform 2 rakats. Sound hadith, I think Bukhari Sharif and others as well, very well known hadith. So this is a well known practice and command of the Prophet ﷺ. So when you go in, 2 rakats, and the intention is greeting the masjid. You say it literally like that in your heart, or you call it Tahiyatul masjid, 2 rakat nafil, and you perform that. That would count as the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Then it says you can perform the fard. So if you come in and it's fard time, and you're going to join a fard prayer, and you join that prayer, that counts, that covers, if you like, the greeting of the masjid as well. You don't have to, say, I didn't greet the mosque when I came in, I'm going to pray 2 more rakat. You're praying any prayer when you enter the masjid covers that, if it's the fard. So it says, and any prayer that you make when you enter. So you could enter the masjid and pray 4 sunnahs of Zuhr, for instance. You've got Zuhr time or Isha time, and you pray 4 sunnah ghair mu'akkadah. Any prayer you pray when you enter could actually cover or count as the greeting of the masjid. However, you can separate out 2 specific rakats and say that 2 rakats, Tahiyatul masjid, Allahu Akbar, pray 2 rakats, and then move on to your sunnah, move on to any other prayers you want to do. So you can use, pray 2 unique, specific rakats for entering the masjid. And one thing to mention here is that this prayer And the following prayer, which is the wudu prayer, Tahiyatul wudu, is not performed as we would have learned in the section on the timing of prayers, is not performed during the makruh times or after Fajr and after Asr. What are the makruh times? Sunrise to the sun reaching a spear's length, or about half an hour after sunrise. Midday, so before Zohar, the midday, the zenith of the sun, and after and before sunset, so the time where it's the sun is setting until it's set, and Maghrib, and even after Maghrib, you wouldn't pray these 2 rakats. You pray Maghrib if you go to the masjid. Also after Fajr, so all the way from Fajr to actually sunrise and beyond, and also after Asr. So when you pray your Asr Salat, all that time till sunset. If you entered the masjid at this time, so common time would be probably before Maghrib. Let's say you entered the masjid 20 minutes before Maghrib. There's 20 minutes. You can't pray Asr. You prayed Asr at home or previously. So what you do in those 20 minutes, you entered the mosque. There's a prayer to pray. You don't pray this prayer. Why? Because it's a disliked time. No nafil prayer should be performed. No sunnah nafil prayers are before the Maghrib prayer or before sunset. Sunset is actually time prohibited to make any prayers, or supererogatory prayers, of course, and even obligatory prayers that are not makeup or not required to be done at that time. So this is important. This prayer is on any other time. So you came into the masjid before Zohar, or let's say you came in after Zohar time. So when you said before Zohar, you mean before Zohar time. The sun is at zenith. You come into the masjid, let's say 2:30. Pray 2 rakats nafil. Right? If you come before Isha prayer and you pray 2 rakats Tahiyatul masjid, then you join the Jamaat and you pray your sunnahs. It's good time. If you come before the Asr prayer, then pray 2 nafil. Pray 2. It's called nafil, but it's called you make the intention of Tahiyatul masjid, and you'll get the reward of this special prayer. So that's Tahiyatul masjid. Hopefully that's something understood. It's not often talked about so much or encouraged, but it's something the Prophet ﷺ himself regularly did, and the Sahaba regularly did, and it should be something that we ourselves also get in the habit of doing whenever we go into the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the next one, Hassan.
It's recommended for one to pray 2 rakats after ablution before the water on the body dries.
Yeah.
Equally, it's recommended to pray 4 rakats or more for the mid-morning prayer.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. We'll just do those 2 then, inshallah. So, like I said, the next prayer was the wudu prayer. So, in this particular narration, it's mentioned that there's 2 narrations, I think, a few narrations. One was that the Prophet ﷺ asked Bilal, "I heard your footsteps in paradise. What did you do to gain this entry into paradise?" And he said, "O Messenger of Allah, I don't know." And he said, "Maybe after every time I do wudu, I go and pray 2 rakats." So he started this practice himself, in a sense. And the Prophet ﷺ said, "This is the reason why you are in paradise, a special reason you got a special place in paradise." Another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, actually, there's not a Muslim who makes wudu and does it well. So doing wudu well is important. And then he stands and prays 2 rakats, and he's fully devoted with his heart in these 2 rakats, except that Jannah becomes a requirement for him. Wajabat lahul Jannah. Jannah is incumbent for him, as noted by Imam Muslim. So there's again a lot of encouragement to perform 2 rakats of Tahiyatul wudu, which is whether you're at home, whether you're at the masjid, whether you're out and about. So Tahiyatul wudu is not connected to a place, it's connected to the act of wudu. So to perform 2 rakats for having performed your wudu is sunnah of the Prophet as well, is a recommended act of worship. So the question now arises, okay, I've come into the masjid and I've just made my wudu as well. Can I pray 2 rakats that cover the wudu and the salah and the masjid entry? Yes, you can. So you can pray 2 rakats. With these 2 rakats nafil, I'm intending to perform Tahiyatul masjid, greeting the masjid, and Tahiyatul wudu, greeting the wudu. In 2 rakats, yes, they can both count for that. If you went and prayed 4 rakats sunnah for Zuhr, and you've just come into the masjid, you just performed your wudu, those 4 rakats would cover greeting the masjid and greeting the wudu as well. However, it is better to separate out 2 rakats for your wudu, 2 rakats for entering the masjid, and then praying your sunnah. That's much better, because that's what the whole idea is. You pray 2 rakats for these. Of course, if you did wudu at home to maintain wudu, for instance, or to read the Quran, then you should perform 2 rakats sunnah actually as well, sunnah of wudu, and then sit and read the Quran, then etc. So when we're doing wudu, this are at home now, because we're not at the masjid during the lockdown, but during the time at home when you're performing wudu, it'd be good to perform 2 rakats, nafil, Tahiyatul wudu, and then pray our prayers, etc. It's good to separate it out now. It's an important prayer to recognize and pray, inshallah ta'ala. And then next was mentioned was to pray 4 rakats of duha prayer or more. So there's different narrations suggesting a different amount of rakats. Some the Prophet ﷺ would perform. Many Sahaba narrate the Salat al-duha from the Prophet ﷺ. And it's called Salat al-duha because it's done at the time of duha. Duhan is the mid-morning, translated as often, i.e. the brightness of the morning. So the sun is not just risen, it's risen clearly and it's really bright and it's like really nice sunshine everywhere if the sun's out. That time, so that's usually around 10 o'clock is probably a good time, but yeah, any time really after 9 to 10 to half 10. As it gets later, it gets maybe even brighter, could do to midday. That's called the Dahwatul Kubra, the greater mid-morning, the greater duha time. So yeah, it will get more and more brighter. That called the greater duha. Any time during that brightness, that would mean you can or you should pray some rakats of nafil prayer, and the Prophet used to pray this prayer often as well, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. Okay, bismillah. Next one, Hassan.
It is recommended to offer the night vigil prayers, the guidance prayer, and the prayer of need.
Yeah, so again, they just mentioned as thank you for that, as just one word. So we need to explain them a bit more. So it's recommended, sunnah is highly rewarding to pray Tahajjud, Salatul Layl. Here, the night prayer is the Tahajjud prayer. So what is the Tahajjud prayer? It's a prayer that's prayed in the last half of the night, the second half of the night. So you should try and sleep or rest for the first half. Obviously with short nights now it's difficult maybe to figure that out and exactly how it works, but generally the first half of the night, and then you perform, you get up in the second half of the night at some point, and you spend, the Prophet himself will spend a third of the night in prayer, a third of the night or so in prayer. But any time in prayer is fine, whether it's 10 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes. But so the Prophet himself will spend a third, which is reasonable amount. If the night is 6 hours, he'd get up after 3, half the night, and the third is 2 hours of 6, right? So he spent 2 hours in prayer, and then the last 6 he would rest again, and then go for Fajr. So that was how the Prophet's Tahajjud is described in the Shama'il of Imam Tirmidhi and other books, that he would. Sayyidina Abdullah bin Abbas actually stayed with the Prophet one night with his khala, Sayyidah Maymuna. So he went to their home. He stayed the night with his khala, Sayyidah Maymuna, radiyallahu anha. She was his mother's sister, khala, and the Prophet's wife, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he stayed with them, and his goal was to observe the prayer of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he says when it was about half the night, the Prophet got up and he sallallahu alaihi wasallam read the last 10 ayat, I think, of al-Imran. So he read several ayats from al-Imran, Surah al-Imran, and then he got up and he did wudu, and he did a beautiful wudu, and then he stood in prayer, and I stood next to him on his left, and then he took me to his right, and he grabbed me and took me to his right, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I stood behind him, and he prayed the Tahajjud prayer. So it was, and this was the middle of the night. So he started in the middle roughly, and that's what the hadith says. It was about, obviously they didn't have clock, so he said it was approximately muntasaf al-layl, which means middle of the night, right, half the night, intisaf. And then we prayed 2 rakats, and then 2 more rakats, and he explains, he probably recited such and such and so forth, and he enumerates some reports 8 rakats, some reports 10 rakats, some reports 12 rakats, right? So 12 rakats is the maximum really for Tahajjud, and the more famous opinion is 8 rakats for Tahajjud, right? In one report, said Aisha herself says that the Prophet maintained 8 rakats in the night during Ramadan and outside of Ramadan, all year basically. And then he prayed 3 rakat witr. So 8 is a famous nation, said Aisha. Said Abdullah bin Abbas has different rakats. And there was another companion who also reports that he observed the Tahajjud, but he observed from outside. So he wasn't allowed into the houses of the Prophet ﷺ at night. So he said, I sat at the doorstep of the Prophet ﷺ, and he knew, the Prophet knew that there's this companion outside, and I observed the night prayer of the Prophet ﷺ. And again, he reports more rakats than the 8. But 8 is the famous Bukhari hadith from Sayyid Aisha of Tahajjud prayer. Whereas other reports suggest a bit more, up to 10 or 12 rakats. And the Prophet would recite the Quran, recite often whole of Surah Baqarah, whole of Surah Ali Imran, or whole of Surah Ma'idah, and so forth. And sometimes he would just could repeat a portion of the Quran all night, as some hadith report. And he would make dua at the times of mention of paradise. He would seek refuge from the hellfire. He would get very emotional, and there was like a gurgling sound, like the boiling of a cauldron or a pot when it's got food, or some kind of cooking is being done from his chest due to the weeping, the emotion of the Prophet ﷺ. And he'd extend his ruku and sujood and increase in his tasbihat, in his glorifications of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this was a rough, obviously we're not studying the Tahajjud prayer, we're just giving you an idea of the Tahajjud prayer of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. And he encouraged it for others. So he said, pray the Tahajjud prayer. It's the way of the Salihin before you. It brings you closer to your Lord, and it removes your sins, and it pushes you away from nudity and evil acts, as reported in Sahih Muslim, and many hadiths regarding the virtues and blessings of praying in the last night, where Allah's special forgiveness. Allah calls on, as anyone who seeks forgiveness, so I may forgive him. Is anybody who has a need, so I may fulfill his need. It's a good time to get up and ask for forgiveness, make tawbah, ask for du'as. A special time. It's the actual time, pre-dawn time, the late night, that the Prophet ﷺ himself was born. He was born just before Fajr time. So the sahur time, the Tahajjud time, was the time the Prophet ﷺ himself came into this world, alayhi salatu wasalam. So it's a blessed time. So you should really try to get up or pray. If in Ramadan's a blessing for that reason, because you're up at that time for food, but it's good to redo wudu and pray 2 rakats, to read some Quran. It's actually the blessed time of every single day, right? Every day we have the opportunity to gain those blessings. And I'll give you context of what I mean, gain those blessings. We've left Ramadan, a couple of weeks ago now, and we're feeling the loss. When you have a guest that brings so much good and so much blessings and gifts, and then after the guests stayed and you've entertained them and been hospitable, they leave. Goodbye after it's gone. It's such a nice time. Ramadan is that gift, that blessing, and so forth, and it's gone. We feel that loss. We can regain some of that if you get that. The Tahajjud time is a blessing. It's not the same as Ramadan, of course, but if you want those blessings of Ramadan, or some of that, you want to get a taste of that again, get up at this time. You will find a lot of blessings at this time. It's it's available to us every day, but it's a hard thing to do. It's not easy. It's easy to say right now. It's a tough time to get up and do something and make the most of that blessed time. The other prayer that was mentioned was the Istikhaarah prayer, right? So it says, and it's recommended to pray the Istikhaarah prayer. But before we move on, has any questions on anything so far?
Just a quick one, Sheikh, on the Tahajjud. I was previously, we were told that one of the conditions is you must sleep and then wake up. Is that true?
Good question. So Tahajjud actually means to push away sleep. Hajada yahjudu hujudan means to sleep. Hujud. So Tahajjud comes from a word that means to get away from sleep or push away sleep. The real meaning of Tahajjud is to get away from sleep and stand in prayer. So obviously you could interpret that to mean don't go to sleep as well, right? So it's not like you have to go to sleep. You're pushing away sleep. You're tired. But the most common interpretation of that is that it means here you're asleep, you get up, and then you perform Tahajjud, and that sleeping is a requirement. Yes, there is that opinion. However, there are opinions that you don't need, you don't have to sleep to perform Tahajjud prayer. If you're awake at that time and you haven't been to sleep, you're staying up the night, and you should pray the Tahajjud prayer. You can pray rakats, the 2, 4, 6, 8, even 2 counts as Tahajjud. Any prayer, any amount of rakats would count as a night prayer. The sunnah is to go to 8 or 12. And you may have prayed your witr after Isha, so your witr is done, so you don't repeat that. That's another thing. If you have read your witr already, you don't repeat it if you read Tahajjud. You just read the nafil rakats of Tahajjud, 12 being the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, the max. If you didn't just read 2, 4, that's fine as well. But if you haven't prayed your witr, that's probably someone who's regularly praying Tahajjud who's going to do that. Then they would pray their witr like the Prophet ﷺ after the Tahajjud prayer. Sayyida Aisha asked the Prophet ﷺ, actually, do you pray your witr before you go to sleep or after you wake up? And when do you pray your witr? Right? Most of us pray before you go to sleep, after Isha. So the Prophet ﷺ said, "Oh Aisha, my eyes sleep, but my heart does not. He answered. He said that at the beginning of the hadith. So the eyes sleep, but the heart is awake. Or the hadith talk about that as well, meaning he's aware of what's going on, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I pray my witr after I wake up, meaning at the Tahajjud time. Obviously, most of us will pray witr before we go to sleep or after Isha. That's the time. As soon as you pray your Isha prayer, you can pray witr, which is considered to be a part of Isha for most people, and that's good because that means you're going to pray. The few that do get up for Tahajjud, they will pray they can pray their witr at the end. But to go back to your question, yes, the best way is to go to sleep and wake up. But obviously, in certain times of the year where it's a very short night, or you might happen to be up one night, then yeah, just don't think, oh, I've not been to sleep, so I can't do Tahajjud. No, just do some do wudu, do Tahiyatul wudu, do some nafil rakats, and play Tahajjud. Yeah, so you don't have to go to sleep. In fact, in some opinions, it says even if you just pray 2 rakats after witr, like you're not even going to the middle of the night or half the night. You just pray your Isha, you pray your witr, you pray 2 rakats nafil after witr, that counts as a night prayer even. You've prayed some prayer at night. Obviously, technically, it's not the real Tahajjud of the Prophet going to sleep and then waking up, and obviously that's the real tough one. The blessings are in the latter part of the night. That's the time that actually is the blessings that we mentioned earlier. All the nights blessed, there's blessings all the time, inshallah. But the special time is the last part of the night. So to get that time, and you're most likely to wake up, obviously, like I said, today's day and age, you might be awake because of the timings and the locations we're in. Just to address a question that's coming on the comments, it says, if you bleed on a non-wudu part of the limb, I'm guessing that means from a non-wudu part of the limb. It doesn't matter where you bleed onto, right? Say above the elbow, on the arm or leg. Yes, if you bleed from those areas, does this break your wudu? Yes. If you bleed in any place of the body, it breaks your wudu. Don't understand why the different part of the body would be different for bleeding. If you bleed on, if you take the question as on, I'm not sure if that means on, then it doesn't matter what you bleed on either. If you bleed, it breaks your wudu. It doesn't matter what you bleed onto. You bleed onto the carpet, you bleed onto a limb, it doesn't make a difference. You're bleeding, that would mean you've broken your wudu if you're bleeding, right? So it doesn't matter you bleed onto or where you bleed from, even it breaks the wudu. Unless the question means, I'm sorry that wording has put me off. I'm just trying to think if the meaning is if blood gets onto a non-wudu limb. That's another question now. That would be a good question. So if wudu gets onto a wudu limb or a non-wudu limb, it's actually the same ruling. But your wudu hasn't broken because it's not your blood. You're talking about blood getting onto you, so it's brushed off somebody else, or it's blood has come from a stain on something, right? That hasn't broken your wudu because you haven't bled, right? You've got blood onto you, and then the rulings of pardoned amounts would come on. So if it's a tiny amount, it's pardoned. If it's a large amount, it's not large. If it's a reasonable amount, it wouldn't break your wudu, would prevent you from praying whilst carrying najasa. So you'd go and wash it off and then go back to your prayer. And it wouldn't break your wudu. So if you bleed from any part, it doesn't matter what part you bleed from. If you bleed from any part of the body, blood exits the body and comes out, then that would cause the wudu to break. Yeah, that's fine. Jazakallah khairan. So yeah, Bismillah Hassan, if you want to carry on now.
Okay. I think you were still just going off explaining the point.
Okay, yeah, the Istikhaarah prayer.
And the prayer for the
Okay, no worries. Let's talk about the Istikhaarah prayer. So Istikhaarah prayer is important, and again, it's one of those prayers that is more than a daily basis or weekly or seasonally. It's as and when you need to perform Istikhaarah. Istikhaarah itself means seeking good. It's from khair. Khara yakhiru, to choose, to make it from choice. Ikhtiyar comes from choice. So choice comes from the word good, believe it or not, khair. Istikhara means to seek good. Allahumma inni astakhiruka. Oh Allah, I ask you for, I ask for good from you. Astakhiruka, I request khair from you. Wastaqdiruka bi qudratik, and I seek your help with your power. Right, so this is the dua of Istikhara, which we'll read because I've got it in front of me, and it's a dua we should try to memorize because you should be doing with you focused on the dua rather than focused on a piece of paper or your phone. If you're going to pray this dua, and it could be often dua because when do you pray, etc. We'll talk about that as well. But first of all, the dua itself, and I think in the Jabir reports that Bukhari hadith, that the Prophet would teach us the Istikhaarah dua just like we would learn the Tashahhud. So Tahiyatul lillahi was salawatu wa tayyibatu assalamu alayk. We all know that for our prayers. They would learn the Istikhaarah, the Sahaba learned the Istikhaarah prayer just like they learned the Tashahhud. And just like we talked about the witr dua qunut, the dua of qunut, something that should be learnt by Muslims. That when we have a need, we want to make a choice. So what's the choice? Should I go into business with this person or not? Should I buy this car or not? Should I buy this house or not? Should I get married to this person or not? Should I go with this Hajj group or not? To go on Hajj is go on Hajj, right? You have to go, right? Obviously this year we pray things pan out well, but we don't know. Should I go on a journey with this group or not, right? Because I need to go to XYZ, they've offered me or they've asked me to come along. If there's no reason to make this Istikhaarah, you think, right, that was the plan in the first place, then, just ask for blessings and protection. But if it's a genuine choice that maybe, you could go with this group or that group or that group, they're all going to an event or traveling, you could go at this time. Should I go at this time or should I go at that time? So if there's choices to make like this for journeys, for decisions in life, for buying and selling something, businesses, for certain elements of acts of worship. So obviously you don't do Istikhaarah, should I do Hajj or not? No, you go to do Hajj. But should I do Hajj with this group or that group or this teacher? That's something that you should actually do Istikhaarah for. Marriage is obviously the most famous. People think Istikhaarah is for marriage. That's not the case. That's just one thing in life, guys, right? Marriage isn't everything. But yeah, it's for marriage as well. And anything really, like said, purchasing a house, making some kind of decision in your life, moving jobs. So job, should I take this job or not? Obviously, if it's a job you need, then take it. But if it's a choice of job, like you can move to this job, should I move? Should I take this offer? Should I, move companies, etc.? Okay, let me do Istikhaarah just to see what signs what Allah, guides me to. Then yeah, so even for a job, obviously if you haven't got a job, take the job. But if you have got a job and you're looking to change field, or you've got the opportunity to change, etc., then Istikhaarah is for. So these are certain circumstances for Istikhaarah that we would do it for. And the companions would learn this dua and they would perform this dua just like they would learn and pray the Tahajjud, at-Tahiyat. So what is the format of Salat al-Istikhara? You should make a fresh wudu, although you don't have to. But you make a fresh good wudu and then you pray 2 rakats. Salatul Istikhara. So it's a prayer as well. So you pray 2 rakats, Salat Istikhara. All of these prayers, by the way, when we mentioned, Salatul Tahiyatul masjid, Tahiyatul wudu, Salatul duha, Tahajjud, Salat Istikhara are the same prayer. It's just 2 rakats of nafil prayer. Okay, if you say 2, 4, 6, or for Tahajjud you pray 2, 4, 6, 2 in twos. Tahajjud is done in twos. And for others it's 2 rakats anyway, or the duha was 2, 4 or more. So you can do 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 I think in some hadith as well. For Tahiyatul wudu and Tahiyatul masjid it was 2 rakats only. And for Salat Istikhara it's just 2 rakats. Nafil, Allahu Akbar, you do 2 nafil. Some reports have mentioned, or some scholars recommending Surah Yasin, Qul ya ayyuhal kafirun, Qul huwallahu ahad, if you want to keep it short. A sunnah prayer, Prophet would often recite Qul ya ayyuhal kafirun and Qul huwallahu ahad in his sunnah prayers and nafil prayers. So anything is valid. It's a 2 rakat prayer. Once you've prayed your prayer, you praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you send salutation to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then you read the following dua, and it is Allahumma inni astakhiruka bi'ilmik wa astaqdiruka biqudratik wa as'aluka min fadlika al-azim fa innaka taqdir wa la aqdir wa ta'lam wa la a'lam wa anta 'allamul ghuyub Allahumma in kunta. So the first part is you acknowledging Allah's bounties, Allah's power, you seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then you go to the specific anta 'allamul ghuyub, you are the knower of the unseen. Then you go to the specific actual need. Allahumma in kunta ta'lam, O Allah, if you know, anna hadha al-amra khayrun li, this affair, and at that point you intend, most of us we don't know the Arabic to make the Arabic words, we just intend what your affair is. In kunta ta'lamu anna hadha al-amra, this affair. In Arabic, if you know what it is, you could say that exact thing. So Allahumma in kunta ta'lam anna shira'a hadha al-bayti, that buying this house, or قبول هذا العمل, accepting this job, or السفر مع هؤلاء الإخوة, or traveling with these brothers, whatever it is. If you know the Arabic words for it, you can say them. If you don't, just say the exact words here. إن أن هذا الأمر, that this affair, خير لي في ديني ومعاشي, is good for me in my religion and my life, وآخبة أمري, and my final affair, my return to you in the akhirah, Or he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ajili amri wa ajilihi, in my current affairs and my future affairs. Meaning it might be good. Some things are good now, they might turn out bad in the future. That's one of the whole concepts of istikhara. Don't just look at the good right now. Actually, is it going to be good in long term? Dua encompasses that in the dua. Faqdurhu li, make it happen for me, decree it for me. Make me choose that and make it easy for me that it goes to success. ويسره لي ثم بارك لي فيه, then make it easy for me and bless me in that. وإن كنت تعلم أن هذا الأمر, and if you know that this affair, you can mention it, you can just intend it at this point, is bad, شر لي في ديني ومعاشي وعاقبة أمري, or قال آجل أمري وآجله فاصرف عني, then push it away from me, واصرفني عنه and push me away from it. وَاقْدُرْ لِي الْخَيْرَ حَيْثُ كَانَ, and decree for me and make for me good, whatever it is, whatever else it is. ثُمَّ رَضِّنِي بِهِ, and then make me content, have satisfaction with that. It's mentioned by all the ulama of hadith, or majority of them, except Imam Muslim. So Imam Bukhari, Imam Abu Dawud, Imam An-Nasa'i all narrated this hadith of the Istikhaarah prayer. So I'll give another example. Sometimes you have charity to give. You've got a few projects to give. Do istikhara. People don't do this actually. Don't do istikhara for what project should I get involved in. I've got time to give. Should I go out with this and do a bit of work here? Should I get involved in this project, community project? Should I go and travel abroad? Traveling is not in the equation right now, but in generally in life, istikhara should be done for these kind of decisions as well, where you're helping others, or where to invest your time. Do istikhara, because you probably make more fruitful investments of your time and efforts if you do istikhara. That's the whole idea. Istikhara protects you, it blesses your actions, your choices, and the whole idea is also to be given guidance for the choice, because you don't know what to do. The whole idea of is going to istikhara with impartiality, not to think, all right, I want to get married to so and so, I want to buy this house. Do istikhara and buy it. No, there's no point of istikhara if you want to just buy it. No point of istikhara if you just want to go and marry. The whole idea is that I'm not sure, I want some guidance before I make this decision. Let's pray the prayer and let's wait for some signs, for some guidance, for some facilitation. Sometimes the facilitation of it becoming easy and or smooth and that shows that it's blessed. That is a sign of acceptance or a good choice. Sometimes after doing Salat Istikhara, you find that you can't get that thing done. There's more and more obstacles coming in the way. That's a sign that you shouldn't do it. Seeing a dream is not a guarantee. It may be that in a dream you see something related to that and it might encourage it or discourage it. It may be that you see it might be that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send you advice from somebody, right? So you did the istikhara and then you spoke to someone, like subhanAllah, that advice just came at the right time and actually sounds good, and and the person who's giving advice is mu'taman, al-mustasharu mu'tamanun, like the person, the consulted person is in a place of trust. He has to fulfill an amana, a trust, right? When somebody asks you for your advice, you got to be sincere and genuine in giving your advice to that person. Otherwise you might tell them something that's not good for them or not optimal for them, right? And that's not sincerity. That's not treachery, but it can be a type of treachery, right? So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the right choices in life and the right advisors in life, and keep us away from anything negative or wrong or other than that. Sometimes your heart opens up to something. You feel like, oh yeah, this is the one, or this is the way, right? Sometimes you feel a constriction. There's no one particular way you will find a decision. It could happen in multiple ways. It could happen in one way. It could happen in different ways, different times. But these are some of the things mentioned. Now, if you don't feel anything or any inclination or nothing, or just like nothing there, what do I do? I've got no idea still. Then you can repeat the istikhara prayer. And it said that it can be done on a daily basis for 7 days. That's mentioned. And I think there's a hadith with regard to that as well, that if you want to do something, then do the Salat Istikhara and for 7 days. One of the things it actually says in one of the hadith, or one of the signs, is that you should go with the first good thought that comes to your heart. The first good thing that comes into your heart is like, or first positive feeling for it or against it, even like, oh, it's actually this would be better, and go with what is better. Or this is actually, that's one sign. It's maybe not for everyone, right? But it's the different things are mentioned, but like I said, there's no one particular way of knowing. It's a case of, and somebody might say, what's istikhara for then if I'm not guaranteed a response or a sign? Istikhara is for the blessings, the protections and so forth. So even in your decision, things could be challenging. So you might decide to get married, you might decide to buy the house, you might decide to take the job. And all of a sudden it comes with challenges, but you felt right, you felt that was the right thing to do. What happened to Istikhaarah? The Istikhaarah was there to protect, to bless, to make that challenge now a form of a means of growth for you, a means of thinking, right, I need to make the most of this, I need to get through this. It's not saying here that by performing Salat Istikhaarah, you're going to have a stress-free life, hunky-dory, no problems. I did Istikhaarah, I'm guaranteed. No, Istikhaarah guarantees your iman, guarantees, it protects your iman, it blesses your faith, it blesses your actions. So whatever happens, the blessed, you're going to get rewards from that. You're going to grow through that. Sometimes we grow through difficulties. Sometimes illnesses actually make us stronger people. We ask Allah for afiyah. Afiyah is well-being, is no harms, is goodness. That's one of the main things we should ask for as well. One of the main du'as of the Prophet ﷺ is afiyah. He was asked by his uncle Abbas, Sayyidina Abbas, "O Messenger, teach me a dua. I'm your uncle, tell me what to do." And he said, "Salillah al-afiyah." Ask Allah for afiyah, for well-being. Right? So well-being is important. And if that's what we get with whatever happens to us, the well-being is to be in the obedience of Allah. Well-being is to understand the wisdom of Allah, is to be given that iman. And this is what well-being is. It doesn't mean you have to have loads of money or good health or this, that, the other. Well-being is that you have that iman and that trust in Allah and that connection, and you deal with the tests and trials as they come. So Istikhaarah is important for that reason, that you do actually take that precautionary step, that step to gain the blessings, and make sure that when you go into something in life, that you've gone into it with the right intentions and with Allah in mind. Right? Keeping Allah in mind is the greatest of worship. Right? Worship, that's the goal of all worship, is to remember Allah through our salah. وَأَقِيمِ الصَّلَاةَ لِذِكْرِي, and establish prayer for my remembrance. Allah says the goal of prayer is to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? In standing, bowing, and prostration, right? In different places and postures. So what is Istikhaarah? Is turning to Allah. You turn to Allah for guidance. You're remembering Allah before you go into a decision in life, right? So remember Allah in all decisions. Even if it's without Istikhaarah, if it's just a case of I'm doing it, but Allah bless me in it, and go for it, right? It's always remember Allah as much as you can. Right? So mention a bit more details on that, just because it's an important thing to discuss. You could go into much more discussions and break them down. For our discussion here, I think that suffices, inshallah. So we'll let Hassan ask anything if he wants. Hassan, anything on Istikhaarah?
No, I mean, the only thing, I think the obvious question would be that the dua for the Istikhaarah, is that done within the salah itself, or could you do it at the end?
No, I didn't mention. So I didn't clarify that. You would perform the salat, the 2 rakats, and actually I did say that. So then when you'd given your salam, you'd praise Allah. So it's after your salam. You'd praise Allah. You'd send citation to the Prophet ﷺ, and then you make the Istikhaarah dua. So Salat al-Istikhara is 2 nafil, and there's a dua that follows it, which is the dua of Istikhaarah. Okay. So you don't pray the dua in the prayer, you pray the dua after the prayer with your hands raised, etc., like a normal dua. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 2 rakahs, and then dua after.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's clear. I think the last one we're on is the prayer of need.
Yeah. So again, same. So you mentioned the prayer of need. Same thing again. The prayer of need is like Salat Istikhaarah. It's 2 rakats, nafil, same as any other prayer. And then your intention with that is to get a need fulfilled or relieved, something that you need relief from. And there is a dua for that as well. The Prophet ﷺ performed 2 rakats, and as mentioned by Imam Tirmidhi and others, he would say the following dua. He would praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, send citing the Prophet ﷺ, and then he would say, or he said, praise Allah, send citation on the Prophet, and say, La ilaha illallah al-halim al-kareem, subhanallahi rabbil arshil azim, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, as'aluka mujibati rahmatik, wa azaima maghfiratik, wal ghanimata min kulli bir, wa salamata min kulli itham. لا اللهم لا تدع لنا ذنبا أو لي ذنبا إلا غفرت ولا هما إلا فرجت ولا حاجة لك فيها رضا إلا قضيتها يا أرحم الراحمين. And you can ask other du'as of need. You can just do this in your own language and ask Allah for your need after 2 rakats. So the idea is to intend the 2 rakats to be a means of fulfilling your need. Again, Surah Yasin itself recited is for that. And again, recited in 2 rakats if you know it by heart. If you don't, then just recite it separately. and make dua using these words if you want. And there are other words, there are other duas that indicate to asking for needs in the sunnah duas as well. This is one of them, specifically for this need mentioned by the Prophet. But there are a lot of duas for different needs as well as general needs. And make those duas, and of course in your own language, with your own heart and own kind of words. You don't have to use these words. These are good to memorize and learn and present first. And then with your own words, ask for your needs. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to fulfill that, and inshallah you will attain what you have intended. Okay, Hassan, carry on.
It is recommended to stay up in worship in the last 10 nights of Ramadan and the 2 nights of Eid.
And also?
It is recommended to stay up in worship in the first 10 nights of the month of al-hajah.
Yep, and the last one?
Should we just do the last 2 points?
Yeah, that's 2 points as well.
In the middle of the month of Shaban, it is recommended to spend the night in worship. However, it is disliked to gather in the mosques to spend these nights in worship.
Yeah, okay, so brilliant. Thank you for that, Hassan. So, coming now to, again, other prayers. So these are blessed times to pray. So what prayers are there? Nafil prayers, right? So it's a slightly different section, and that is that this is called Ihya'ul Layl. Qiyam al-Layl, Ihya'ul Layl it's called, bringing the night to life, or Ihya'ul Layali in the plural. Meaning to worship, giving life here means worshipping in these nights. So staying up as much as possible and performing worship with full heart and mind, not just to stay up for the sake of staying up or just to be tired, but to stay up as much of the night with attention, focus. So if you have to sleep at some of it, then that is better, to spend most of the night in full concentration and then spend all the night, while you're half dead by the end of it because you've overdone it. The best worship is that which is with the most focus and most attention. I think most of us can stay up most of the night anyway. Not everyone can, due to work and work, the amount of work and the type of work and the hours of work. Right? It's not the same for every single person. But we should try to make most of these nights. What are these nights? Of course, we've just been to the last 10 nights of Ramadan. The Prophet would sit itikaf, and he spend the whole night, the whole most of the month, not just the last 10 nights, but as much more time was in worship. But of course, the last 10 nights was full devotion. And hence it's a sunnah for us and recommended for us to try and do as much as we can of those 10 nights. And if you can do itikaf, brilliant. If not, then spend some of those nights in worship. Obviously the odd nights being virtuous as well, but all 10 nights inshallah ta'ala. Also the nights of Eid, so the night before Eid and the night before small Eid, which is the last, after the last fast. Nights come first, by the way, so you read your Taraweeh before you fast, right? The first Taraweeh happens and the first fast happens. Why? The day, the day as in the 24 hours of the Islamic day starts from Maghrib and ends with Maghrib. And so the clock strikes 12 at Maghrib to be precise, right? That's midnight. Sunset is the beginning of the day. And there are clocks that actually work like that. So I say Maghrib 12 o'clock, midnight, Isha 1:42 Isha, 1:42 after Maghrib, because Maghrib was 0, like 0 hours is midnight in the normal kind of, not in the day we're accustomed to. And then Fajr would be like, whatever time it is, like 6:31, okay, because it's after Isha by 4 or 5 hours, whatever it is, like that. So that's how it works on that calendar, that time scale. So you would perform the night of Eid, which we're talking about, before Eid the day, not after you've done Eid that night. You're going to perform this worship. The night before Eid, you stay up. The Prophet said, I think one of these, whoever stays up on the night of Eid to worship, then Allah will keep his heart alive on the day the hearts die. So this is the day of judgment, and your heart will be given special life because you spent the night of Eid in worship, both nights of Eid, worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what do you do on these nights? Istighfar, astaghfirullah, durood sharif, citing Prophet recitation of the Quran, nawafil prayers, 2 rakats, you recite Salat al-tasbih, read special prayer of tasbih. You can do dua of prayer of need, Tahajjud at the end of the night. So any prayers, any Quran recitation, Surah Yasin, as much Quran as you can. Dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, la ilaha illallah, 100 times, 1,000 times, etc. Do as much worship, virtuous worship as possible, sunnah, surah recitations, as possible, sunnah du'as, etc. Sunnah litanies of the evening, right? There are many things we can recite, many du'as. Some are repeated 3 times, some are repeated 4 times, some are repeated 7 times. A'udhu bi kalimatillahi tammati min sharri ma khalaq 3 times. So there's lots of things you could, a good book to read on that night, or to pick up and read from on that night, not read the book exactly, but read the du'as, is the Adhkar Imam Nawawi. He's got a whole section on the dhikr of the morning and the evening. So pick the book up and read all the dhikr of the evening the Prophet would do. This is like a 6-7 pages of sunnah dhikr too. So that's the best thing you could do. Follow the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, praying the Quran obviously, the du'as, and nafil prayers. And that's what you do on all of these nights. They're all the same in that sense. It's just a night for worship. The 10 nights of Dhul Hijjah, which are coming up, we're in Shawwal now. The next month is Dhul Qa'dah. Dhul Hijjah is the month of Hajj, and the first 10 nights, or the first 9 nights, because the 10th night is the night of Eid, but it's the same, it comes under that. Walayalin Ashur comes under that. Again, spend these nights in worship. The Tahajjud on these nights is extra special and is worth many years of worship. I think it's multiplied each fast on these days as well. So you should fast the first 9 days of Dhul Hijjah. Each fast is worth a year's reward, and the 9th of Dhul Hijjah is worth 2 years reward, because on the 10th is Eid, you can't fast. So you're going to fast 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. You're going to get a day's reward for each one, a year's reward for each one, fasting a day. And for the 9th, you'll get 2 years. So you'll get 10 years reward by fasting 9 days, because you can't fast the 10th day because it's Eid. So fasting as well on those days, but obviously the night in prayer, night in worship as well. And the Nisf of Sha'ban, meaning the 15th night of Sha'ban, which is the middle night, again, night comes first, is a special night. Many hadith, although there is a bit of discussion over the soundness of them. There are many, but the discussion of the soundness of them, etc. The fact that the early generations all practiced this, right, and it was a common practice to worship on the night of Nisf of Sha'ban, 15th of Sha'ban, is common practice amongst the Tabi'un, etc. And so it's a practice that has been passed on through the very early days of Islam. And there are hadith that support this, and there are Quranic commentaries and Quranic ayat that, according to some scholars, refer to the Nisf of Sha'ban, where things are decreed and the things are written for the year and so forth. But like I said, if you look at the hadith studies and so forth, there will be discussions on that. However, if you put everything together, scholars, practices, early generations, Quranic tafsir, Quranic ayat, the hadith as a whole, you'll find that it's a valid practice. And there shouldn't be a need for us to disparage anyone or talk negative about things. These are things which we should learn to tolerate and accept from each other. We don't all agree on these secondary issues, or is this a sunnah, is it a mustahab, is there a slight difference in it, or is this something that's practiced or not. And there are certain, these are called the furu'a. In the furu'a, we should need to have an accommodating approach. Scholars differed from, Sahaba differed on the furu'. They differed vastly. They all had different ways of understanding certain rulings and things. These are, what we mean by the furu' are the secondary issues, the branches. Furu' means branches, by the way. Furu' is a branch of a tree. Fara'. It means like a department branch. Right? You got a branch like that. It's used in that day to day. It's a section of something else. It's an offshoot of something else. The usul are the foundations. We can't differ in our tawheed. We can't differ in what we believe about the Prophet ﷺ, or about the Anbiya, or about the angels. That's one set of beliefs. Differences cause major problems there, and they do, and they did happen as well. But we stick to the orthodox Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. In terms of practices, like how to pray, how to fast, rulings of zakat, commerce, prayers, these kind of things, daily practices, etc., then there is a vast difference amongst the Sahaba, amongst the Tabi'un, amongst the Muslims in general. And to say that we should all, scrap all that and just have one way, and somehow somebody thinks that's possible, we can get all the Muslims to agree on one way, is not the case, and it's never been the case for 1400 years, right? After the Prophet left, there was differences, and it's ever been there ever since. And in many hadith, the Prophet actually pointed out that this type of difference is a rahmah for the ummah, is a mercy. There's a mercy in not us arguing with each other or differing, not in the fact that there are different understandings of the Sharia, different understandings of certain rules, secondary issues, like do I, like I'll give you one example. Do you give zakat on gold, which is a personal item, like an earring? Some scholars said yes, because zakat on all gold. And some said no, you only give zakat on the gold which is not a personal item. So if it's not, if it's a necklace, if it's an earring, no zakat. Other scholars said no, even if you've got a necklace, that's the majority. This even got a necklace, even if you've got, but it doesn't matter. We respect the other opinion. We acknowledge that some people will practice that, right? Perfectly fine. Right? So these secondary issues, we have the sort of wisdom and maturity as a ummah, not as individuals, as a ummah, to allow and to respect. Unfortunately, I think in our times we've become very focused on the differences and actually made them into mountains, which they were never the case, right? There was always a lot of leeway and room and respect amongst the ulama and the Muslims at large for the differences there were in these secondary issues. So before we move on to the last point, which is the dislike in entering gathering in the masajid, I just want to answer these two questions. It says, I'm a sailor and work on ships, mashallah. How am I supposed to work out my prayer times and the qibla if the ship is always moving? True. So prayer times you have to just do by the astronomical phenomena. You know, even when you travel on planes, you're traveling fast, and you just go by the time of the place you're at, which obviously is moving. So you need to have an idea of your coordinates, location. And you guys, you're working on boats and ships. I'm sure you got the equipment to figure out things out there, right? So based on that time, that location, your time of prayer will be the normal times of prayer. Just that you need to figure out for your location, which might be a bit more work than as simple as looking at a timetable that we normally do, right? You've probably got to figure out the timetable before you travel and so forth. But yeah, so there's a bit more work required, but it's just same, just this location, what's the prayer time going to be here when I'm there? Have I got the instruments? And even if you look out at the sky, the sunset, pray your maghrib, open your fast if you're fasting. It's asr time, the sun's declining, look, it's close to the horizon, it's getting closer, it's asr time, shadows double the length, etc. Isha time, it's gone dark, right? Pray Isha at night. Isha is probably easiest, right? It's completely dark. So times are not too difficult. The qibla, yes, because your ship is always moving, a very good point. I think we're coming onto a section, actually, it's in the book, of praying on a boat. There's actually a section in the book we're studying on how to pray on a boat. To quickly summarize for Brother Abrar, may Allah bless him, he's asked the question. You face the qibla to the best of your ability, like anybody else would. So if you're out and about on a journey on land, the qibla is that way, you figure it out. And you guys, like I said, should be able to do that, you're sailors. And even if you just work on ships, you guys should know how to do directions and stuff, right? Then you face the qibla, take a compass with you basically, and know whether from where you are, you should be able to figure out the coordinates of Makkah. You can use apps and stuff. I don't know how well they'll work out there in the middle of the sea, but you figure out the qibla and you start praying. Now, if the ship moves and rotates in a particular direction, as we're going to learn, inshallah, is that you have to turn to face the qibla. So if the ship moves so you're facing the qibla this way, and just straight up, right? But this way, the ship moves that way. You're going to move that way. You're going to turn away from the qibla. So what do? You start turning that way. So you're going to turn to your right if the ship moves left, to the best of your ability. So if the ship moves once or twice, once might be normal during a prayer. It might move twice. It might change course. Then you move. Obviously, if you're facing the side of the ship and you're moving along, then you maybe need to adjust, obviously, your posture every you come with a split second, but after the car change. Depends how far away from the Kaaba as well. It's like thousands of miles away. Remember, you got the 45-degree error or leeway. So as long as you're within the 90-degree, right? So you got 45 that side, 45 that the Kaaba, right? So as long as you're somewhere in there and you're moving to keep in there, that's fine. That's what you do. Hopefully that'll answer your question on how to manage facing the qibla during a prayer, inshallah ta'ala. And the last point, before we go back into the next point, which is I think it's coming soon, that point, because it's going to talk about, next section is praying on an animal, and then so it's animal, and then after that is the boat. So it's actually just a few pages ahead. So we'll come to that in more detail next class, inshallah ta'ala. But the point here is it's disliked to come together on these nights for worship as a group. It's not disliked to worship on these nights. It's recommended. About that. It's highly recommended. But to come together as a group and for one person to lead, like the Prophet ﷺ, did he lead the Sahaba in worship? No, he didn't. The Itikaf nights, come and do this with me. He didn't say on Eid night, come and join. He didn't say on Nisf Sha'ban, come and do this. He didn't say on Laylatul Qadr, come and have a gathering. So it wasn't something that was practiced by the Prophet ﷺ, or recommended by him, etc. It doesn't mean that it's not valid. We'll talk about this in a moment. But because it definitely is better, and even some scholars consider Taraweeh to be better alone, because the masjid is a masjid, right? But the Prophet prayed alone. That night worship is best done alone. Okay, that's why the Prophet wanted to set that rule. Night worship is alone. It's between you and Allah. It's the private, intimate, relationship building exercise, which you don't want lights and public. You want to be alone with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you can do that, fantastic. But I'll tell you something, 99% of Muslims can't do that, and they won't do that. So if we don't do anything, we just say, yeah, go and pray at home, guess what, 1% of Muslims will be doing something. Whereas if you say, right, come to my house, come to, well, not now, but in normal times, come to the masjid, come to the center, we're going to have a gathering, guess what, you might get 40, 50, 60% of Muslims turning up for these, just for these nights. They might not come for any other prayer even, but they'll come for these nights, they'll come for events, right? So what are we breaking? What law are we breaking by doing? We're not. We're just actually bringing people together for worship. We're helping them to do that worship. So we're supporting that worship. So I would say to people, and by the way, early, not Sahaba, I think, but early scholars, Tabi'un, students of the Sahaba, started to gather on these nights. So it's known, I think, in they would gather on these nights with their students and the public to worship. Why? Same reason. These were like the students of the Sahaba. So these were like, Muslims around 50 AH, 60 AH, 70 AH. Very early on, probably left the world in 11 AH, right? So, the next generation after the Prophet ﷺ, they were doing this. Some didn't do it from them, so some did. So it shows that they understood we need to make sure people come to the masajid, come to worship Allah during these times, and they're not. So they mashallah, they did this, right? Others didn't. Others spoke against it. They said, look, it's better not to. People should learn to worship at home. I think we've moved on 1,000 years plus and realized we definitely need not just these nights. I think we need more excuses, more reasons to bring people to the masjid, because they don't come. In those days, they'd come to the masjid. It was just natural to do that. Or did they spend their night in worship at home, in the masjid, or anywhere? No, they just go to sleep, chill out, do all the private of our own, in the private area of our own home. The mask comes off and we just become normal, right? And that means for a lot of us, we're not going to do much productivity Islamically, worship-wise. So the fact that there are programs and efforts put out there by people to facilitate, I think is a big blessing for us now, is a big help. So definitely, I think, the more we can get, the better. So all of these nights and more, have monthly itikaf nights for the youth at your masajid when the situation is better, of course. This video was done in the middle of the corona pandemic, COVID-19, right? So if you're watching years on, you'll understand why I'm saying that. If you're watching now, you understand right now we're in the middle of a pandemic. But yeah, have these itikaf nights, have these, gatherings on a monthly basis maybe, because we need more reasons to nurture our youth, to bring the Muslims into the masajid. Ladies should have their separate nights and given time and space, and that should be obviously within limits and times, because it's not always practical for people to disappear for the whole night and then come back. But it's actually nice for them to do that, to reinvigorate themselves spiritually. And for one night, the men can look after the kids and so forth, right? And let the ladies actually worship and build their relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. I think that's really powerful and empowering. And that's what some of the early scholars started to do. So don't worry if somebody, again, we should accommodate that. If the early Muslims accommodated it, we should as well. But don't worry if people start disparaging that or criticizing it. Let people be. For yours, this is my advice for difference of opinion, because we talked about that today as well, is even if somebody's, and this is what happens, they are so passionate about what they believe in, what they think should be the practice, what they think is right, what day the moon was seen, the way you should pray, the rakats, not stand like this in prayer, do this, do that, pray, all sorts of things. Fasting, this breaks the fast, doesn't break the fast. Zakat is right this way. You can let them be passionate. Let them give you, just listen to them and enjoy their giving their energy to you and being so passionate. And then just say, Jazakallah khair, Allah bless you. Thank you for letting me know your opinion. That's it. You don't need to have a debate back. You don't need to refute the person. You don't need to start saying, oh, well, this, that, the other. Alhamdulillah, fantastic. Let it be. Let people be. Because that's fine. It's not just one person saying it. It's probably 1,000 people like him saying it. You're not going to change the world. You're not going to start getting all together and happy by debating. Debating doesn't do that. Debating actually says in the hadith, it creates this like animosity and hostility in unqualified people, let alone qualified people. It does it in qualified people as well. So it's not good at all for anybody, right? So don't get involved in these refutations, discussions, etc. And understand there's difference in the ummah, and we should respect that difference. What do you think, Hassan?
Absolutely, Sheikh. I think definitely the last point's very, very good. Just going off the back of it, just said that it's disliked to go in the mosques in these nights. But us growing up, we read like Salat al-Tasbih together in the masjids, in small little Jamaat groups and stuff like that. So I was just that little bit that clarified it for me. It was quite good because I was getting a little bit confused that we've done this in groups and Jamaats before.
Yeah.
And it's just like, but yeah, no, they're absolutely really clarified
thank
that
you.
point.
Yeah, no, I think people obviously sometimes we don't always know the reasoning behind what we do, or but I always say like this, right? There are scholars that are responsible for every masjid, the imams, and they're not just individuals. They're part of Islamic bodies. They are part of the councils of mosques. They have discussions, they have meetings. They talk about things like the timetable, the dates of Ramadan, etc. Sometimes people think that there's nothing going on. It's just random. Every time an issue comes up, that's when it comes up for the layperson. The scholars, the imams, they've been talking about it for the last 6 months, for the last 2 months. They're already aware of the Islamic calendar. They're fully aware of the dates of the what's going on, and they are fully aware of the rulings as well, and they know that others won't agree with this practice or that practice, and there's a particular way that some people do this, a particular, etc. These differences have always been there. They're not new. The prayer timetables, what times you're fasting, this is not new. It's been there many years ago, many decades ago. Even in the UK, Muslims were here from the 60s, 70s. They had these same issues back then. It's been dealt with. The opinions are out there. My advice for everyone is just follow your local masjid, your community where you go and pray with every day. You pray Taraweeh with them, you pray your Salat with them, you pray your Jummah with them on a weekly basis. Whatever they announce, whatever the programs they're doing, support them. It's a shame to see a local masjid program, and from the locals, there's 10 people, 20 people. The locals should be the first people to fill the masjid if their masjid is doing an event. Locals should be the first to respond, first to get involved in the activities, and follow their masjid. If they ask for support, if they ask for volunteers, and be a part of them. The whole idea of a masjid is to bring the community there together for the worship of Allah and for obviously the betterment. So whatever you've been doing, which sounds like you're doing a lot, mashallah, then great. Keep on doing that. You have these programs, have these events. Getting different teachers, scholars. Different types of events. Sometimes a bit of fun, like the Itikaf night. You can have a bit of fun, a bit of relaxation, then worship as well. Like I said, there should be facilities for ladies as well. That's something important we need to address as well, because they're tomorrow's mothers, they're tomorrow's community as well. We have not just one gender in our communities. We have both. We need to look after both on the spiritual Islamic level as well. And we give everybody food and drink on a similar level. We give them clothing on a similar level. We give them all their worldly needs, but we somehow, I think we do quite. What's the word? There's a big disparity in how we cater and nurture the women folk and look after them and provide for them on that level. So that's something that we need to voice first of all, and then hopefully that voice is heard and people listen and then think, oh wait, it's been said several times, let's do something, and then change is actioned. And I hope you can be a part of that, Hassan, as well. Can you?
Inshallah, Sheikh. Inshallah, I'll do my best. I don't know how much I'll be, but I'll do my best.
Inshallah ta'ala. I think we'll stop there, Hassan. It's not been a long lesson today, but I think we'll call it a day there, and we'll talk about the prayer of nafil, sitting down, and other prayers like on the boat, on the ship, on the animal, etc. Next week, inshallah ta'ala. Thank you, Hassan. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah. Thank you very much, Sheikh.
Okay, and Assalamu alaikum to everyone. Take care and see you next week. So it's a weekly class. You can share this link. It will. So there's a comment there. It will remain available indefinitely. It's on the link you've just seen. Just click back on this link, and you can access the video anytime. You can ask questions. If we see the comments later on, we'll address them. If not, every Wednesday we're live on the live stream to ask questions as well. So please do share the link with others if you think they'll benefit from this. And assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.